Flavored vaping products, anything other than tobacco flavor, will be banned in Quebec. This is going to be happening in the next few weeks. Here is Quebec Health Minister Christian Dubé making the announcement earlier today.
We're very clear that the flavors are being prohibited, not only for the youth, because we're aiming mainly at the youth, but I think for adults only, the same way as we did with cigarettes years ago when we discouraged the use of menthol and all those other flavors. So the same thing today.
So particularly targeting the youth, as you heard the health minister say, a quarter of high school students in Canada have reportedly vaped within the last month. And some of those vapes do include nicotine. This is according to a new study. So we wanted to find out, how bad is vaping for you? Just how addictive is it? And is the impact worse for young people? Jamie SEABROOK was the head investigator of that study, chair of the School in Food and Nutritional Sciences at Brescia University College in Ontario. And Jamie SEABROOK joins us now. Thank you for your time today, Jamie.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
So first and foremost, I'll just ask your reaction to the announcement from the Quebec Health Minister today.
I think it's a great thing because we know that vapes have continued to grow in popularity, especially among non-smoking youth. And the high prevalence of youth vaping is really largely attributable to aggressive marketing, and a huge part of that has been the flavored vape products.
Yeah, and I think also the way that they're being sold, right? Like, I don't know what it's like elsewhere, but here in Quebec, there's these sort of the corner stores, dépanneurs as we call them here, that look like they have all kinds of cute little things, extra like weird, unique candies and little toys, and then the vape products are right there on sale as well. So it's very appealing to younger people. And I'm wondering, in terms of the switch, so flavored vaping products being banned, but you can have tobacco flavor still. Do you anticipate younger people just making the switch to tobacco flavor, or do you think it will simply hold that much less appeal?
I think it's going to have less appeal. I just came back from a Canadian Institutes of Health Research vaping conference in Ottawa, and we had many youth that were there, and they said that the big addiction for them, obviously the nicotine, but also being the flavored vapes. So I think the banning of flavored vape products will substantially reduce those that are going to start initiating vaping, and maybe those that are already currently vaping. The reduction in the nicotine content will mean that they would have to vape a lot more and spend a lot more. So I'm hoping that will also reduce vape use among those who are already vaping at this time.
I know a lot of people who've switched from smoking cigarettes to vaping instead, believing that it is much less harmful for them. Is that true, Jamie?
Well, what we know is that vaping is less harmful than traditional cigarette smoking because there's fewer toxic chemicals in e-cigarettes. However, that doesn't take away from nicotine still being the primary agent in regular cigarettes as well as e-cigarettes, and that is the big concern, is that nicotine addiction is a very real thing with adolescents, and with higher nicotine content. So I'm glad that we're going to have this reduction. Not only do you get nicotine addiction and exposure to harmful chemicals, but we've seen things like seizures from nicotine toxicity and acute pulmonary injury. So I'm hoping that this will help reduce vape use initiation as well as reduce the amount of adolescents who are vaping as well.
The idea that I've heard is it's the way vaping works, and that you're breathing it, you're inhaling it so deeply, perhaps more deeply than you might inhale a cigarette. How big of a concern is that?
It is concerning, and the other thing that I just want to say on that topic that we found in our research is that vape use in adolescents, high school students, was highly correlated with polysubstance use. So what we found was not only did 26% of high schoolers across Canada vape in the past month, 12% were exclusively using vapes that contain nicotine, but it was also highly correlated with cannabis use, alcohol use, and smoking cigarettes. And the risk of greater nicotine vape use increased with every subsequent grade in high school. So I'm excited that the nicotine content being reduced. I think that's a good thing, and same with the aggressive marketing with flavored vape products and reducing and banning that flavored vape products altogether.
It makes me think, though, when you're saying it's correlated in terms of use of, would you say, cannabis, alcohol? I mean, it just makes me think that's a behavioral thing more than anything. So if they're going to be vaping less, are they just going to turn to those other things more?
Well, that's it. And we know that Canada has done a great job in reducing cigarette smoking, but unfortunately, what's happened again is vape use has been very targeted towards the youth. And while cigarette smoking overall has gone down, we're having more and more turn to vape use. So, for example, we found that current smokers were about 5 times more likely to vape exclusively with nicotine in high school students than those who did not smoke cigarettes. So again, what we're seeing is a lot of polysubstance use among Canadian high school students.
And Jamie, I understand it seems to be a little more prevalent amongst male students. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, results are pretty consistent that way, that males tend to be more likely than females to exclusively use vapes with nicotine, but also nicotine-free products, which not everyone knows do exist, but they do. Males are also more likely to vape and turn to polysubstance use. I mean, what we usually find in terms of mental health is that males are more likely to exhibit external mental health behaviors, and that often equates to greater risk of substance use, for example. But again, the bigger concern, too, over and above that, is that with every subsequent grade in high school, they're more likely to turn to greater polysubstance use, greater use of nicotine, vape products, etc.
So the tendency is there. The addictive factor seems to be very much there for young Canadians. Is the impact worse the younger you are?
Well, what we're seeing is that the younger you are, the more likely you are to start. So like grade 9ers, they're more likely to start with nicotine-free products. But then maybe it's like an enjoyment thing, an experimental thing, a transition into high school, given its popularity. Sometimes it's to reduce stress. But then once they kind of get used to that nicotine-free vape, then they are often turned to products that specifically have nicotine.
It makes me think about mint-flavored cigarettes, right? So if kids are used to having flavored vaping and that's no longer available to them, they won't necessarily gravitate towards the tobacco-flavored one, but perhaps they'll start smoking like a menthol cigarette.
Yeah, that could be. And of course, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that those that start vaping, their odds of turning to cigarette smoking do increase substantially. And the other thing that I just want to say, even though our study wasn't specific to that, is that about 33%, about one-third of adolescent vape users in Canada use their vaping device to consume cannabis, which is a whole other area of concern that we have to consider moving in terms of policy implications.
So, Jamie, we're just about out of time, but I'm curious it's kind of a mute question because I can't imagine you saying no, but yeah. I imagine you would like to see something like this kind of ban that's being put into effect in Quebec more widely spread, like see it across the country.
I definitely want to see it across the country. And again, having spoke to so many adolescents over the last few years, so many of them are saying how addictive the flavored vape products is. So I think this is a great thing because many of them do want to quit.
And I think just before I let you go, I'll ask you for some parting words to anybody who's feeling, and I think particularly with kids, it's the cool factor, right? They just want to fit in. They want to be part of the gang. It's that social pressure. What would you say to somebody who's thinking and hesitating perhaps of taking up vaping?
I would just say that, I understand that there's a lot of peer pressure to get involved in vape use, and I know that I have done research where vaping outlets, be it specialty stores, convenience stores, are located close to schools, but there are better choices, exercise, getting involved in sports, because so many adolescents have told me that those who have turned to vaping, they often move away from those good, healthy behaviors, such as spending more time exercising. And often the other thing, too, is they'll say they'll use vapes to relieve stress, but ultimately it's like a temporary quick fix. And many of them are saying to me afterwards what's happening is they're finding that it's leading to greater anxiety, for example. So making the right choices and surrounding yourself around people that are avoiding that is a really good thing.
Thanks so much for your time today, Jamie.
Thank you for having me.